I should offer a bit of a clarification. In the previous video, wonderful memoir, exciting adventure about miming and pantomiming all over the nation and fun things like that, I should tell you that I told you that I should not stop for an ambulance and other people should not. I was a bit distracted because I was driving, and driving always comes first, but I should offer what I saw. You should stop for ambulances. You should pull over for them, but not always. Oh, what? Bo, what are you talking about? You always pull over for ambulances, for police officers, for other vehicles with flashy lights. Not necessarily. I have read the RCWs, the Washington Legal Code, very carefully. And if an ambulance or emergency vehicle is coming up behind you, you can stop. And you should stop if they're coming in the opposite direction and there's two lanes. However, in this instance, there was a turn lane separating us, and it was very, very clear that the ambulance was going in the opposite direction, going straight. There was no turn signal. They weren't turning, they were going in a straight line. Basically, you don't need to stop for an emergency vehicle when there are several lanes separating you and you're going in the opposite direction. Think of the ramifications of always needing to stop for emergency vehicles. You would be on the freeway, and even though there's a median separating you two, there's an emergency vehicle going in the opposite direction. Do people stop? Of course they don't stop. They continue going because there's a separation between the two lanes. Oh, and yet for some reason 10 cars in front of me stopped. And so I was polite and I pulled over as well, and I wasn't going to be one of those people who passes everybody. Oh, that just burns my noodle. Emergency vehicles. Have you ever ridden in one? Mainly an ambulance. I was this close at one point to riding in one. I got knocked out at a karate tournament. It's true. You've probably heard the tale about this. And if not, go ahead and search for BeauCh karate tournament getting knocked out, kicked in the head by a black belt. So it was a Shotokan? No, not Shotokan. Anyway, it was a style of karate that was very, very, very brutal. And they like to, you know, pound their chests and punch rocks and go stand in the middle of a creek and do fancy moves and stuff. It's highly entertaining. And yes, I'm going to make fun of Kyokushin karate for just a moment. And that's what this tournament was, Kyokushin karate. Very nice people. But in this instance, I, being an outsider, was like, hey, I want to go see if I can spar and see how well I do. This little guy, oh man, he was flexible and he had fast kicks. And it was a brutal tournament. No blood was shed, at least in my match. But Liz said that it was by far the most entertaining and well-matched group, that is, fight of the entire day. All the other fights were, you know, one had more skill than the other, but she said me and this other black belt in Kyokushin karate. I am not a black belt in Kyokushin. This is his domain. This is his arena. And I was matching him at that place. And anyway, he was obviously better than me because he hit me right in the side right here. And I went down to my knees. I still had my arms up in case he went at me still. But he stopped and he struck a pose, which is what you do in Kyokushin karate when you hit someone to the ground. You strike a pose, which is really funny. But he did, and I'll let him strike a pose. He can do whatever he'd like if he'd knocked me down. And anyway, I ended the match, and I went up to Liz and was like, Liz, I don't really know where I am right now. In her own words, I said, Liz, don't take this wrong, but I don't know where I am right now. Wow, I mean, really, if you ever say that to your wife, of course they're going to take it wrong. So she called the fire department, or the EMTs rather, and the fire department showed up. They checked me out. They said, hey, do you want us to call an ambulance? And I was like, you know, look, at this point, obviously I don't even know where I am, but talk with my wife and see what she thinks. Thankfully, she did not, and instead she drove me to the ER, where they did an MRI on my brain to make sure that there was no head bleeds or anything like that. But man, I'm telling you, it is a terrifying experience. And I've mentioned this before, getting hit in the head. Last time I was snowboarding in Switzerland, and you can look up that awesome memoir about me hitting my head and blacking out and not knowing where I was. And I was in Switzerland, and I had no idea where I was. Wow, never was the same since. No, I'm just kidding. It's just a bruise in the brain. That's what a concussion is. And then the brain can reset, which is what happened with me. And slowly things started coming back. And now I remember absolutely everything about the tournament. But at that point, not a thing, which is terrifying. You're just like, I recognize a few faces here, but I have to just trust them, basically. Wow, it was so exciting. I'm not fighting again, at least for a long time, and unless I can devote like so much training to it. I didn't train very much for this one. That was exciting. So anyway, that's how we got onto the topic of getting knocked out at a karate tournament via ambulances. Have you ever ridden in an ambulance? Again, I have not, but the closest thing was the EMTs showing up. Nice guys. One guy, he had an Australian accent. See? I remember that because he actually said, hey, mate, do you want us to bring the ambi? That's what he called it. He called it the ambi. It's like, it's an ambulance. Just call it that. Is it that cumbersome to say? But it was a funny accent. He was a nice guy. Oh, he almost got hit. Woo! That is why you do not pass on the right. Bam.